Do you have any games that you played over and over and you basically know them from memory? Well, Resident Evil 4 was one of them for me, so I was pretty excited when I saw that they were giving it a remaster. Resident Evil 4 is on Steam for $40 and it follows the overarching Resident Evil franchise where there are different monsters and zombies and different parasites and stuff, but in this one you play as Leon and you're tasked with finding and rescuing the president's daughter. So I want to start talking about the similarities that this game has and doesn't have with the original game. For the most part, it follows the same story, and some maps still being almost exactly the same as the original, which I like. I wanted to replay the original game with updated graphics, so I'm glad that they kept most of the game the same. However, there are some sections and other mechanics that they changed that I missed from the first game or I just didn't really like. Talking about areas and encounters, there are a couple of changes that I wanted to see, but they just weren't here. First being the section from when you go to the village into the castle. There's a truck that barrels towards you and you're fighting your way through a horde towards the drawbridge until the cutscene happens and then you transition into the castle. But in this one you just kind of have to sprint through everyone and it's still kind of suspenseful, but it just doesn't feel the same. Another thing revolving around Salazar was the section where you run away from a statue across a falling bridge. That was pretty intense, especially when I was younger, just seeing the scale of this giant statue chasing you and you just running away. And in this game, they kept the statue, but he was just in a tower standing and it shoots fire, but it felt more just like a decoration rather than an actual thing. And then we have the fight with Krauser. They turned the whole knife fight into an actual fight, which kind of made it more interactive, but honestly that cutscene, it captured the whole event, the whole feel perfectly. And even though they were just quick time events, I honestly prefer that way more than the fight scene that they have in this game. Well, not the fight scene, but the actual fight that they have in this game. And then finally, this is kind of controversial on why it was even in the game. People said that it had no impact and it was pointless, but it was the fight against U3 in the falling cages at the end of the game. And that fight, it was stressful, and I feel like that's kind of the whole point of the Resident Evil series. You gotta be a stressful, creepy action game, and that fight captured it all pretty well. I found out that you could still fight U3, but you do this as Ada in a DLC, and it just kind of sucks that they cut it from the base game, but it's still cool that you can still fight it in the DLC. I just don't know if it's the same because I didn't buy the DLC. Next, I want to talk about some mechanic changes that I noticed. There are really only two that truly stood out to me, and that's the knife system and crafting system. And honestly, I didn't really like either one of them. They didn't really make the game more difficult or change the game in a super drastic way, but it felt like it was just overdone and it felt kind of pointless. The knives now have durability and you can find more than one instead of it just being sort of a secondary weapon, and that means that they also take space in your briefcase. But basically you can use them for silent kills, or if you down an enemy, sometimes you're given a prompt to take them down, which is an insta kill, which is kind of cool, but the durability was so low that sometimes I would find myself trying to go in for a takedown, but then didn't realize that my knife was broken, and so I just ended up taking extra damage for no reason. And I realized that that's a skill issue, but it was just weird either way. And then the other thing is the crafting system. It's already difficult to get everything to fit in your briefcase, and I know that's part of the challenge, that's part of the suspense or whatever in this game, trying to make sure you fit what you want. But sometimes you found so many of one material and none of another, so even if I wanted to craft something I couldn't, so I just end up throwing things away, or I'd hoard some materials. But then the amount of space that it took in my briefcase, I just wouldn't buy new guns anymore. I pretty much, for the entire game, I wanted to try out different guns, see what they were like, but because of the weird organization in this one specifically, I pretty much just defaulted to the bolt gun and the broken butterfly. While it's supposed to give you the freedom to craft a certain ammo that you want, it sort of just, in my perspective, it took away from the other guns rather than make them shine. Now, it sounds like I pretty much only have negative things to say, but this was still the story and mostly the same gameplay of the game that I used to play so much, so I still enjoyed it. But honestly, with those changes, I can say that I didn't enjoy it as much as I did with the original. It might be nostalgia, but I mean, it didn't feel the same. I didn't like it as much, but it's still definitely a fun game, and any Resident Evil fans should play it at least once. And especially with the $40 price point, which I think is fair. But all in all, I'm gonna go ahead and give the Resident Evil 4 Remake a 7 out of 10. And I just wish it was more of a straight remaster than them changing different random things for no reason. Let me know if you would have given it a different score, and also let me know what other games I should review. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.